Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies strengthening your business while offering your talent to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Welcome, everybody, to the Giver Marketing Network broadcast. We're here with our friend David Bear, who's going to be helping us understand how to build an AI team that will rock your world. We're going to take your efficiency to another level, take the confusion out of this conversation, and really give you some tools that'll really help you in your business, in your organization. And as marketing professionals, we love to showcase tools that are actually working, we actually use in our own businesses. So this will be one of those type of presentations and conversations. Want to also welcome Kingdom Warriors University as well, and all the others that are watching. David is a part of a company, a team called the Prepared Group, and he also has some specialty presentations that he loves to showcase, which we get to experience today. So, hey, David, can you share with us a little bit of your background, kind of where you came from? How did you even get into this conversation, the space that you're in right now when it comes to building AI teams? What's the story here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna give you my little bio on my slides in just a moment. So I'll save some of it for then. But
Sure.
But I have been an early adopter of a lot of technology when it comes to the work that I've done. I started with AI stuff not back in the 1950s when AI actually first was coined as a term, but soon after that in 2019. And so I've been playing around with this stuff for about 4 years at this point. Really initially digging into how do you create content, which as marketers, we always are interested in how do we leverage tools to be able to get our messaging out there and more widely spread and more of it more efficiently, more effectively, etc. And as the technology has increased in its ability to do so much more, I have found problems that could be solved with this technology, including what we're going to talk about a bit today. But I'll go into a little bit more detail of different places that you can be using AI that really are not as obvious to a lot of business owners. I spent much of 2023 talking to business owners around the globe. I gave 48 different talks to business owners and learned a ton from them in terms of their understanding and awareness of what exists out there in the world of AI, most of which is really a lack of understanding of what the technology is. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment.
We love your insights. You've helped our organization, the Giver Marketing Network. You've helped me personally think about some things on a deeper level when it comes to not only marketing, but different aspects of business. And so this will be a really fun kind of combination of some of those things. Let's jump in. Let's get some visuals, some fun visuals going right now as we rock and roll. And so before we begin, share with us a little bit about what we're about to see here.
Well, you're going to see a bunch of slides, and I'm going to talk you through those slides, and those slides are going to tell the story that I am aiming to have communicated to the audience. But more seriously, the idea here is that there's all of this AI buzz right now. In one of my other presentations, I talk about the fact that we're overwhelmed with tools. There's hundreds of new tools being built on top of this technology every single day that are being launched, and I think there's a great deal of confusion. So I'm going to really focus on one area where we can say, okay, now I understand where AI could be useful in my business. And that is the idea of extending your capabilities in your business by adding quote unquote additional team members to your organization by creating AI virtual team members. That's what we're talking about.
Come on. And then I understand there's a goodie at the end of this trail here. There's a gift that you want to give the audience if they pay attention and rock it all the way to the end. Is that correct?
Yes, as long as I can get it all in the time that we have available, I'm going to be giving away 10 different AI personas that I've written out in full detail, and folks can then take and not only use them, but also emulate the structure of them to create additional team members that are appropriate for their business needs.
Ooh, extremely valuable. Okay, let's rock it, and then we're gonna have a kind of a group discussion toward the end, and we'll give away some goodies around that time as well.
All right, you got it. How long do you want me to run through the presentation before we jump into conversation? I want to make sure that I leave plenty of time for chatting.
20 to 30 minutes.
All right, I'm going to speed through this then.
Come on.
So here we go. This is my bio that I had promised was coming. I've been a marketer since 1996, first in the classical music and theater world in New York City. I got into wine marketing, which is what brought me across the country to where I currently live in Portland, Oregon. Started a Facebook ads agency back in 2010, working with wineries. These days, I mentor and train marketing service providers, and I have been playing with AI since 2019. As I said a moment ago. So we're going to talk a little bit about in an organization, there's a bunch of different roles. When you're a micro business, maybe you are wearing all of the hats and playing all of those roles, and it might be useful to have an additional insight or additional skill set to help support you. Even small organizations may not have all of the roles filled. And so this idea of using AI to help fill some of those roles is really the idea that we're going to be covering today. The idea ultimately is to increase efficiency and increase the level or quality of your work within an organization. So I want to just share a study that came out, and this was middle of 2023. This Future of Work report that was published on LinkedIn talked about the idea of how businesses were looking at AI and how they were thinking about incorporating it. This number, 47%, I think is much higher these days as there's greater awareness of what AI can actually do in organizations. But this chart on the right, and I'm going to zoom in on the next slide here, really speaks to where AI can be used in what types of roles and where it really can't. So if we zoom in here, you can look at things like, a software engineer or a teacher might have a good amount of support that they can get from AI because there's reading, there's intellectual content that they're working through, there's building stuff in code for a software engineer, whereas somebody who has a very manual offline job like a nurse doesn't really have a lot of opportunity for AI to play a role in supporting or augmenting the work that they're doing. And I think that's really important in terms of a lot of this discussion of AI is taking our jobs that continues out there. I would say AI is improving the work that we have the ability to do. And to really speak to that, I want to talk very briefly about a study that was done by the Boston Consulting Group, where they had AI support a bunch of their consultants. 758 consultants were working with AI in this study, or actually there were 758 consultants overall. Some used AI, some did not. And what they saw was those who used AI, they actually finished their tasks faster. They were delivering the results at a higher quality. I'm not quite sure what the qualitative metric was there. And they were able to accomplish more overall. And to speak to that even in a deeper way, those who were already considered the top consultants, the top half of those people who were using AI still improved in terms of their output, whereas the bottom half improved actually a significantly larger amount. So you can see these were the top half skilled participants improved their output by 17%, the bottom half by 43%, which means that somebody who's at, I don't want to say the bottom of the totem pole, but in terms of the quality of the work that they're currently doing,
Kind of the entry level. Is that what
and
you're talking about? Kind
yeah,
of that.
maybe somebody who is doing something more manual in an
Mhm.
organization, if they are learning how to supplement the work that they're doing or augment the work that they're doing with AI, they can actually contribute more with the assistance of AI to the organization overall. And
Makes
that's
a
sort
lot of
of
sense.
the point that I hope people will take away here is that you can take somebody who may not have the skill set to be a manager or a leader in your organization, but introducing AI to their tool set, their toolkit, can really increase what that individual is able to contribute. And this is where I want to, point to, this is the other option from AI is taking our jobs to AI is improving the quality of what even the lowest skilled member of the team is capable of doing. Make sense? So let's talk a little bit about AI-powered team members. I think anybody who's been using artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, any of these things out there, Jasper, you may have encountered the idea of giving the AI a role, because when we're giving it instructions, the more narrow we're telling it, hey, just think as if you're in this role, the quality of the output, the focus of the output, the less generic the output becomes, right? So if I were to say, act as a marketing expert, it would now think about the question that I'm about to ask it in a narrower way. But I want to go beyond this because I want to really dial in what we're able to build for our organization. And so I don't simply want to tell it, hey, you're an expert in this, you're an expert in that. I want to give it much more detailed instructions. We're going to get to those in a moment. But first, I want to talk for a moment about how do you even begin to think about what type of team members might be useful for your business. And the first thing you can do is just sort of look at what your business is and say, all right, I'm good at this, I'm not good at that, we don't have somebody doing this. But if it's not as obvious, where can you turn? How can you figure this out? Well, surprise, surprise, I turn to AI to guide me through this process. And here's a screenshot of a little chat that I did with Gemini, where I simply said, I want to add some AI personas to my team to help support my business. Can you outline a process to come up with the right mix of team members? And then it guided me through, step one.
David, are you saying you're using AI to help you use AI?
It's totally meta, and I'm not talking about the one in California. Yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
So figure out what the business needs are, right? And then it walks through, pain points, opportunities, desired outcomes. Map out the ideal skills and roles that we want and put them into different categories, prioritize them. I mean, this is pretty obvious stuff, logical stuff, but it's not necessarily intuitive to work this out. And so asking AI this question, will at least give us some structure for how do we make this decision? And then ultimately, and this is the key to where I want to go next, what are the specific attributes of these personas, of these team members that we want to create? Now, and I want to stop and talk about this point for a moment, because we're going to spend a lot more time on this the contents of this particular slide. Remember how I said when you give it the instructions to act as an expert in something, it's still fairly generic. But when we're interviewing and seeking to hire an actual, staff member for our team, for our organization, we're making some decisions based on the individual, sitting across from us, their pedigree, the background that they have in both education, in where they've worked before, the environment that they've worked in, because that is all going to help us understand what are we going to have them contribute to our organization. And I'm going to revisit this in a moment when we start talking about an example that I've built out for us to look at. But here's one that I did to give sort of an example of what this could look like. I was doing a talk for some folks in the construction and development industry, and we were talking about how do you build out a project manager for a construction project who can give you insight into the way that they work or operate or think. If, and in this scenario, you're a subcontractor and you want to understand what the general contractor's project manager is going to want from you, how they think through a process. And so this is a way of even thinking about not just within your own team, but how you're serving clients or how you're serving partners, what they may prioritize, what they may think, what they may need, and then you can produce a better result or a better quality output to accommodate the perspective of those you're working with outside of your organization. So I've confused matters a little bit by talking about something beyond team members, but I hope you can appreciate the value of even thinking about, how do you create a persona for a partner and then be able to enhance what you're building for them. Go ahead.
I love that you're bringing an example here because it puts it right into front and center on our desk, if you will, and ready to implement not only with our own team but those teams that we work with and collaborate with and partner with, or maybe even our clients in this case, and being able to help them. And anytime we can serve our clients or even our internal team at a higher level, there's a stickiness, a Velcro that ends up happening because you're bringing something that may be confusing to them or not sure about how to use, or maybe bring some clarity to them. And so these aha moments, these light bulbs go on as we talk about examples like this. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. So how do you build a team member? Well, this is one way to get started. And what I realized, I should probably just grab a quick shot of this, and we'll drop that in the chat for you all. So yeah, there we go. It didn't get that line. So the role of blank, right? You need to include that from what I just dropped in the chat. But you can start simply by saying, I want your help building a comprehensive persona to serve as my AI employee in whatever role. And then in order to figure out what are those particular characteristics or aspects of that individual, you can tell it to start asking you questions that will help it dial in what those characteristics might be, right? It'll get you thinking too, because again, a lot of this stuff doesn't come naturally to us, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of ways that I like to think about this. And this was something that I learned from a YouTuber named Igor. I know his last name starts with a P and I can't remember, has a great YouTube channel called The AI Advantage. And back when ChatGPT released the custom instructions option, he came up with this idea about how do you build out these personas and introduce them to the custom instructions. The custom instructions have two different sections. The first one is what are the instructions for the interaction that we're having? So that's the stuff that he created on the left-hand side, the about them. And then the second section is what are the instructions you have for the AI and how you want it to interact with you given the topic that we're dealing with. And so he came up with this list of how to interact on the right. And I thought this is the perfect structure for creating any role that you want to create in your organization. And you can apply this not only to the custom instructions, which are available in the free version of ChatGPT, but you can build out custom GPTs, and you can apply this in other tools as well, simply by thinking through these aspects of an individual or a role in an organization. I'm going to quickly walk through an example of a full charge bookkeeper, and then I'm going to show you a GPT that I built with this particular persona. So the first thing that you can do is talk about what it is. So the role is the full charge bookkeeper, and what it does, it oversees operations for a small or medium-sized business. Now, I would, if I were in a specific company, a specific organization, replace small to medium-sized business with whatever the specifics are of my business. So in this case, a small 4-person team. That's what we are at the Prepared Group, specializing in mentoring, coaching, and guiding marketing professionals. And so it gives them a little, and maybe a little bit about our business structure, right? We're a virtual team with clients all over the globe. That might say, okay, well, now I have to think about issues related to international payment and currency exchange and things like that, right? So the more that you can give it that's relevant information for the role that it's playing in your organization, the more helpful this is going to be in putting together the persona. So what is the learning style? What is the personal background? And remember when I said, thinking about that person that you're interviewing across from you. Well, if I'm in small business and I'm interviewing a bookkeeper who comes from a big accounting program and has only worked in enterprise business, are they really going to be the right fit for my small 4-person team? Or are they really not going to understand how we operate, and they're going to introduce lots of ideas that are not relevant to us? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And you can see it both ways. But that's the kind of specificity that I want to think through. Well, who ideally do I want to put in this role? What is that background I want them to have? Where do I want them to have worked before? What are the types of experience in the knowledge base? So if you go back here and we talk about, I think it's not here, it's here. Educational background, specialized knowledge, specializing gap compliance, right? These are the types of things that you may want to think about. Specifically, what do we want to put into the role of that individual, right? And then we can talk about how do we want them to interact, what types of questions do they ask, what do they reference in terms of the resources that they're going to consider as they're doing their tasks. Things about what is the awareness of the bias on the part of that individual team member, right? So these are all the considerations that we want to have. And then I'm going to take us over to, I actually built this out as a GPT, and I can simply work through the process of asking it some questions. And in this case, I'm just going to ask what it can help me do, and it's going to now give me some specific details of what it's capable of. I mean, that's a good starting point. Now I could then, give it, I could, I don't know, upload, in this case, it's a bookkeeper. I could upload some financial statements or a CSV file of some, earnings reports, and have it do some analysis, for example. Right. That's the kind of stuff that I may not be well versed in this role, or the types of things that this role can accomplish in my business, and it can help support me through its specialized knowledge, guiding me through a process. All I did, I'm going to go into the back end here for a moment, and let's enlarge this so you can see a little bit. All I did was I took that information that I was just sharing on the slides, and I put it in here in the instructions. And then I gave it some additional information just for context, so that it could then run through the process of taking on that role, taking on that specialty. So that's really all we're doing here. Any questions, Timothy, before we move
No,
on
I'm
to?
just so the audience is really, really crystal clear, for those maybe who haven't experimented much with AI, or for those who even have. This is a tool internally to help the bookkeeper uh, at some level, but even before you hire, to make sure that it's the right person. Is that what I'm picking up here? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is it can be used in multiple ways.
Sure.
So let's say you don't have a bookkeeper in your organization and you just need the knowledge or skill set that a bookkeeper might lend to be able to decipher um, some financial reports. This could be useful. Maybe you do have a bookkeeper who is on the team and they would like to be more efficient with their time. This is an answer, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can use these. Did that address the question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And sometimes, uh, sometimes certain personality types tend to have a little difficulty understanding that there's two layers going on here at one time. And so I just want to make that really clear, that what's fun about talking with you and having conversation with you, and even the visuals, is that you often do have two layers going on, kind of the surface layer, and then there's some underneath genius kind of happening with the tools and different things. So thank you.
Sure. I'd say that the way that I like to think about AI and how to apply it in a business is not to look at what is the tool out there and how can I use it, but rather what are the challenges or problems that we're dealing with in our business or our life, right? And then what can we do to solve them by utilizing AI? So in this case, with the bookkeeper, right, there's a inefficiency in what our current finance department, accounting department is doing, and can we increase efficiency? Can we get more reporting done or analysis done more effectively? That's a problem that this could solve. Or I'm a solopreneur. I don't really understand how to, review a P&L statement, let alone, understand any of these spreadsheets that I'm getting generated from QuickBooks. I wonder if there's a way that this could be simplified for me. Well, creating something as simple as this and then saying, can you explain this to me like I'm a fifth grader, right? Uploading it and asking that question could be very useful. So really, what's the problem? And then building something like this is the solution.
So whether we're talking bookkeeping, whether we're talking a basic business plan, marketing, operation, like roles, information based questions of any kind, this can be an extraordinary assistance. And you're just giving an example of kind of the bookkeeping conversation. I love that.
Yeah, I do want to say, because I teased this earlier, so let's go back here just for a quick moment before we um, get into our conversation. I have built a lot of these. I built over 100 of them at this point. Some of them are get advice from a particular, well-known scholar on a topic. So let's see, I don't know, Dan Kennedy. Get advice from Dan Kennedy, and you can interact with and it is dialed in as Dan Kennedy. So it may not be that it's a team member, right? It may be just an external. I wonder what such and such a perspective on this situation might be. What somebody based on their, years and years of publicly available published information, what their input might be on my situation, right? So there's a lot of different ways to attack this. I'll give you one other one as an example. Let's see.
You just said Dan Kennedy, so you have my full attention. So like, just yeah, keep doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So how about this? So lean startup methodology. So here I put a framework into it and I said, you're going to guide the user through this framework, ask them some specific questions, get their input, and then guide them through this process of the way that the lean startup methodology would address the situation that they've provided to you. So again, these could be simple guides to solving problems based on classic frameworks as well, right? So there's additional ways to utilize this technology beyond simply creating a team member, but I think that that's a really good starting point, the team member concept. And so let's jump back into the slides, because I want to jump over to discussion. But before we do, I want to help folks understand what this might look like in their business by providing them with 10 really solid examples. And that's these 10 essential AI team members that I built. The first one is a business coach. The second one is a CFO. The third one's a copywriter, social media manager, market research person, an SEO blogger, a legal compliance advisor, customer service specialist, an executive assistant, and a human resources individual. And so these are all available. I put them into Notion so that they can be copied and pasted easily. And you can see when you get into Notion, there's a little drop down there, and I made a video with instructions on how to use them and different places to use them in AI, depending on what tool you have. Whether it's the free ChatGPT version, or if you want to build out a custom GPT like the ones that I've just been showing you. I walk through all of that in that video as well.
So you've put all your, a lot of time into building out these personas, making sure that they're pretty solid, so that the audience and those listening and our power partners out there are able to kind of streamline and really get right to the meat of what these tools can do. They can play around with these personas, experiment with them, and really learn how to interact with certain set up criteria within the AI tools, correct?
Yeah, and I would say that my recommendation is these are starting points, right? This is going to help somebody look at it and go, oh, I get how to build this, or this is the right starting point, but now I'm going to tweak this information for my business, or I'm going to use this structure. And do we have another like 2 or 3 minutes for me to jump into one of these?
100%. Yeah, right. AICoterie.com/10 personas, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
Let's just jump over to now I have to remember exactly where they are. I think they are in my shared stuff and in my 10 personas. Okay. So why isn't that moving out of the way? Okay. So here's an example of one of them, and let's just go into the CFO. I've made basically two different versions of it. One is the version that I've just shown you, the same structure that we were just talking about. I'm going to increase the size a little bit so everybody can see. And then I created this alternate method, which I found fascinating. I took a class on how to effectively communicate through emojis to expand the way that the instructions are being related, because you only have a limited amount of content or characters that you can put into instructions. So I built these out using emojis, and with the assistance of AI, helped sort of figuring out how to structure these instructions. These are convoluted and difficult to follow, even for me to read through it, and I created it. This is a lot simpler. But there's two different versions, so that if you're so inclined, you can certainly play around with both of them and use these to emulate what you want to create, even if it's not a CFO. Maybe you want to create a completely different role in your business. Now you have two different approaches to doing so.
So essentially, you're giving us the modern era swipe file where we can just grab what you have, pop it into AI, give it some basic instructions, and then interact as if it's an assistant. Correct?
That is correct. That is what I'm intending to do.
Come on, David Bear. This is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, grab those gifts before we, even right now, as we get into roundtable discussion. Look up David Bear on LinkedIn as well. Just kind of connect with him, follow his work, check out what he's putting out there. Because as you can tell, he's staying on the kind of the leading edge of this conversation, producing actual tools, whereas 99% of us kind of just say, Oh yeah, those are nice. I'll play with them every once in a while. David's actually getting into it so that it can help all of his constituents, all of his partners, all of his team members internally as much as possible. So why not? Why not glean from this and leverage these tools? Thank you, David, for offering that as a gift. I've seen gifts like this range anywhere from $500 to $5,000. I mean, just to be able to have access to this kind of thing. So thank you.
Oh yeah, and I paid a pretty penny for the courses that taught me how to do this. So I'm happy to share, because I think that the more literate, the more of us get with this stuff, the more effective we're going to be in our businesses. And so I want to make sure that people are not left behind on embracing the technology to be able to incorporate it. And then, what can you expand beyond this once you get these basics down?
Very cool. Well, hey, with that, are we ready for kind of a roundtable discussion here? Is this a good time, or
I am done with my stuff. So yeah.
let's flash that gift one more time on the screen if we can. I want to make sure people get that gift. It's in the chat box where comments and all that where you're watching as well. But I just want to make sure that people are clear. This is a golden nugget right here. This is a gift for you to be able to play with internally or even with your clients. And we just want to make sure that that's available to you. Okay. So aicoterie.com/10 personas. Grab it quick before it leaves the screen in 3, 2, 1. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's rock and roll. Okay. So with that being said, we have Christine Dean. Welcome to the stage. Let's have some fun. Joel Snyder. JD is with us as well, and we're gonna mute our own microphones if we're not talking, just for sake of clarity as far as being able to talk. And I want to make sure that I'm able to kind of hear the questions and everything like that. I think Frank might have a little bit of noise in the background, but he can put his questions in the chat box and we should be good. All right. With all this coming at us, it's not as much a fire hose, because I've seen presentations where they're a fire hose. Okay. This is a very clear example of how we can use this tool today. Very practical, very on point. And so I just want to thank David for that. But let's go into questions. Do we have any comments that came from the audience? Any questions? Christine, maybe you can lead this part of the conversation.
Well, so I was excited about what you had to say, because it's making us think about it as business owners in ways that we may not have thought of using this option with AI. And it's just mind blowing. I'm still going, wow, wait a minute, because there's areas of expertise, right? I was automatically thinking of, for example, Genius U has a wealth dynamics assessment, and it'll tell you as an entrepreneur where your areas of specialty are and which areas are not. So to take that and apply that to what the tools that David has here, right? You can think about, okay, well, it tells me I'm not strong in this. Well, what if I created my team member? Because they claim that to be successful, you need to have all these team members in place, right? And use that to fill in some of the holes so that you're not missing that part, right? Just wow.
Love it.
And I would add just one thing, Christine. You could also, if you don't have that assessment, you can create an assessment tool with this to guide you through to help figure out where those inefficiencies or holes are in your business as well.
David, I'm curious, what are some of the most prevalent use cases you've seen for even the tools that you've created? Like you mentioned a couple in-house, but can you give some, maybe 1 or 2 more examples of like how this is working in real time, like right now with either internally or with a client?
Yeah, the most obvious one is the stuff that I have built for the folks that we serve in our business. As I think everybody here on the call knows, we're in the business of training folks who may come from a different role in serving businesses, and teach them how to become trusted advisors in revenue growth, business growth, operational systems, etc. there's a lot to learn there, right? And you may not know everything when you come into a situation with a client about how to address that. So building out a tool to support or to quickly get you up to speed on how to work through a process or a problem is at the core of a lot of the stuff that I've been building and working on with our folks. Because, if you come from a marketing background, but there's an operations issue, well, we had somebody just the other day who said, I'm dealing with a client right now. They're dealing with some operational things that are creating speed bumps in our ability to move forward with this other stuff. I got to guide them through how to fix that problem first before we can move on to be productive with the work that we're doing. What do I do? And so, suggesting something like getting advice from, in this case, somebody like Mike Michalowicz, who has done a lot of writing on the topics of how to change priorities in the operations of a business, change systems in the operations of a business, change your perspective on things within your business. That might be a good AI tool to help guide her through working with the client on that particular problem.
Okay. Thank you for that example and kind of how that can be implemented, especially if it's something that we're either needing to dive deeper into or we need just some basic information to get us going in a particular area that we're just kind of stuck. So this can help unstuck us, release us to kind of that new level of confidence. And then maybe team members and power partners and consultants kind of come into the mix as well. But then at least you have this line of information that you can draw from. Frank had a quick question. He said, I'm wondering about the risk of hallucinations. First of all, let's define what that is. And let's address the kind of the common questions that come around artificial intelligence and these kind of technologies.
So the risk is getting lower and lower, but it still is an issue. Hallucinations are AI is giving answers that are inaccurate because initially we were seeing this in an earlier version of AI because it wasn't sophisticated enough in its instructions to say, if you don't know something, don't give an answer. And so it would always give an answer to a question. As we're getting more sophisticated in the core large language model instructions, as well as users are getting more intelligent about how we're asking it to operate, that hallucination stuff is getting reduced. There's also, some situations where hallucinations are likely to come up more than others. And so if you're asking for the type of stuff we're talking about, which is guidance around solving a problem, you're less likely to encounter a situation where you're getting hallucinations than if you're asking for it to provide facts about something, right? Because there, if it doesn't know, it's going to make something up. Here, it's going to have a much better sense of the sort of first you do this, then you do that, and so it really depends on the types of the topics that you're interacting with it about, where you're more likely to encounter that.
So, David, just real quick, the thing that I'm a little worried about, if you ask for help on something you have some expertise already and you get a bizarre answer, your flags will go up. But if you're looking for help on something you're really ignorant about, you might not recognize that it's an inappropriate answer.
I think that's 100% accurate. I also think that if you were to address the type of problem that I gave earlier with the consultant who doesn't know anything about operations, and she Googles the answer to the question and reads a whole bunch of blog posts about how to address this, she may find accurate and inaccurate answers. So I think you're correct. And I think over time we're going to learn how to address this, but we're very early on in our use of this technology to say that it's not a problem. But I think it's a larger problem than simply the technology.
have a quick question, if that's all right. You know, when David was doing his presentation in AI for artwork, he was able to ask them to generate art in the style of, and fill in the blank of a famous artist.
Just to be clear, are you talking about David Oz, another gentleman that was presenting art through AI? So that's a reference to another person.
Right. And so, and I apologize. Yeah, you're David also. Is the can we use that in our prompts for solving a business problem? If we had, say, a mentor in advertising, could we say, you know, according to David Ogilvy, how would you address this advertising question?
Yeah. So if you think back to all of the custom GPTs that I made, you know, getting advice from various people, absolutely. If there is a knowledge or a wealth of knowledge that has been online, or the person that you're trying to get guidance from has written, you know, books like this one. Since you mentioned David Ogilvy, I happen to have his book right here next to me. One of his books. Actually, I have his other book right behind me. This is not a fake background, by the way. I can actually grab stuff, unlike some people on this call. And so if there is knowledge that has, you know, been available online where all of these platforms have been trained, then yes. Going back to Frank's question, the hallucination thing used to be a problem. If I said something like, you know, I'd like information on such and such from the perspective of, you know, Joe Bob Smith, it might give me an answer, even though it has no idea who Joe Bob Smith is. Now that problem has been addressed because there have been so many issues with those types of hallucinations. There we go. Does that answer your question, Joel?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that if people have taken the time to get educated in their craft, they have mentors that they've studied over the years and whatnot. It would be great to be able to tap into some of that historic knowledge that's not just blog related, but actually specific to that person, that expert.
I love taking the books. David and myself and several others jump into a book club together, sponsored by the Prepared Group, and I love taking the titles of books, famous or semi-famous authors, and just asking it for a chapter summaries. Like, just give me a little bit more than just the title. Like, just give me just a little bit more. And it makes for extremely fast learning, streamlined information gathering, even if that's kind of the mode. And I just appreciate kind of this thirst for knowledge, even if there's an aberration every once in a while where you're like, what the heck is that? That's not the David Ogilvy I was talking about. Like, you can kind of tell if you know the authors or the influencers or the information givers or the person that you're researching. Okay, any other questions for David? JD, do you have anything?
I do have a question in regards to AI, because we were talking about using mentors such as Ogilvy, and you'd mentioned, and we saw your whole list of people that you can ask advice from. But what is the legal ramifications of having of using all of that material to train a bot? And is that something we need to be worried about as small businesses?
I'm not a lawyer. I can create an AI lawyer to try to help answer that question. But here's the answer that I think we're finding. The way that these tools operate, they are using publicly available information that they've been trained on. Most, but not all, most of these platforms are saying if you find yourself in a legal situation as a result of using our tool, we are taking the responsibility. One of the large ones, and I can't recall which one it was recently. I want to say it was Midjourney, one of the visual platforms, actually took the other side. They said if you use our technology and you get sued, you're the one who's responsible. All of the others have gone in the other direction, saying we'll be responsible if you get sued. There have been authors who have brought legal action against these platforms, all of which have basically been denied either a day in court because they didn't have sufficient grounds, and the reason in general that I've read is that they have no proof that they've been harmed from the information that's being gathered by the platforms financially, and these are not regurgitating verbatim any of that content. They're taking the information that is found in that content and using it to help answer a question. The way that the technology works is that it thinks one step at a time through all of the different research that it's done. What is the next word that would appear in the sentence I'm putting together at this moment in time, right? And so it's thinking through the context of the question and answering it methodically based on what word is logically going to come next. And therefore, plagiarism has been very, very, very minimal. That's not the question you asked, but that's an extension of that topic.
Yeah, it's not exactly, but you're right. It is. That's where the conversation will end up if we follow that question down to the end. Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. You mentioned different platforms, David. Are you comfortable publicly kind of sharing some of your preferred platforms, or is that for another day?
Yeah, it really depends on what you're attempting to do. Each of these platforms have different strengths, and the biggest platforms out there, OpenAI's ChatGPT, and most of the tools that are being. And remember, I said hundreds of tools are coming out every day. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but at least dozens and sometimes hundreds of tools are coming out every day. Most of them are built on top of OpenAI's API because it's the one that's gotten sort of the biggest play. Their competitors are Google. Google has also has an API, and their platform, which originally was called Bard, is now called Gemini. There's a company called Anthropic, which Amazon has committed to investing $4 billion in. They're partially, invested and will continue to invest further. Anthropic has a product called Claude. There's a free version of that available. Then there's other tools out there, and I shared one in our private chat just a moment ago, which are aggregators of a lot of these tools. So Poe.com, Poe.com, is a really good platform if you want to use these different large language models in one place. And for, I think it's $200 a year right now, or $20 a month, you can say, okay, well, for this project, I'm going to use the Anthropic Claude API because it's better at writing and in a creative manner. But for this one, I'm going to use Gemini because it's much better at working through math problems and numbers and computations, right? And so each of them have different strengths. We're continuing to see new developments rapidly happening in this space. And so, recently Claude had a new upgrade. It's, their highest end platform or LLM called Opus in Claude 3. overtook in the benchmark rankings ChatGPT 4, which was the gold standard up until a couple of weeks ago. And that's going to change again. It's going to change again. And it's going to change again. And then suddenly, you know, in 2 years, all the stuff we're talking about now won't even exist anymore. And we're going to have some new paradigm of like how this all works.
Not in its current form.
Right.
It'll probably feel like when the search engines first came out. It's like, okay, I searched in this way back in the early days, and then eventually we ended up with this, and now we have this, and this that have kind of risen to the top of the mountain of these tools. And I remember the early days of the search engines. I know many of us here do as well. And I'm thinking, yeah, this seems very familiar, but exponentially more, how should I say, beneficial if you leverage the tools, because it's like search engines meets creativity meets how would you explain that, David? Like,
well, you bring up an interesting point, and it's one that I included in a lot of the talks that I gave this past year when I'm talking about how do you use this technology. One of my recommendations, and I'm not answering your question exactly, but I think this is an important point to share. One of the recommendations I have given is we have all incorporated Google or Bing into our, I was going to say, or Alta Vista or Ask Jeeves, but probably not, into our daily routines. And one of the things that I would suggest is very useful for people to start doing is to add one of these apps or several of these apps to your phone right now. Perplexity is another platform that I think is fantastic. It also sort of incorporates search and it's a master at that. Finding a way to incorporate those into your daily routine when you have a question, I would say when you're going to go to Google and search something, take the time to also try to address the question or solve the problem, you know, aside from getting driving directions to some place or you know, find out what pizza place is closest to you or whatever. Use AI to address the same problem and try to figure out which is the better path for what you're trying to accomplish. Because search engines are going to continue to be really useful for us in certain ways, but AI tools may solve different problems or address the problem from a different approach or different perspective. And getting in the habit of using them as frequently as we do search engines, I think, can be very useful for people to figure out where each applies in their life.
well said. That's a great way to kind of land the plane today. We're coming to the top of the hour. We want to thank you, David. Again, ladies and gentlemen, grab his free gift. Rewind the to use an old term, rewind the video and grab his free gift. It's also in the comments below. Look him up on LinkedIn if nothing else. David Baer. Like let's connect with him. Let's say, hey, I saw you on the broadcast. Let's chat. Let's talk. Tell me more, and let's dig in together. If you are a marketing professional, an agency leader, a group leader, someone who wants to take your game to another level and become more of an advisor or consultant at another level, David Baer is your guy. He's the person you want to talk to for sure. If you're a business owner who wants to learn more about these tools, David Baer is your guy. You definitely want to talk to him on just how to kind of get started and kind of get moving in a very practical, pragmatic, and efficient way. So thank you again, David. We're going to sign off for now. Christine, do you want to mention what we do on Wednesdays so that people can just kind of come and gather and connect? If you're a marketing professional, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Come hang out with us. There's a lot of specialists in marketing and there's agencies, right? So whoever you are in that marketing field, come hang out with us. Don't be a lonelypreneur. And on Wednesdays, every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, you can find us at givermarketing.com/networking. Register once and come hang out with us. That's a totally free, no cost event. We just want to bring in all the marketing people together. So come be with us.
So marketing, communications, and media professionals, you are welcome. Givermarketing.com/networking. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week, if not sooner. Talk to you soon.